got all the pieces cut out. I've got the counters skived. The insoles are wrapped. Now is when I do all my skiving. I skive almost all the pieces of the boot. Like I said before, it makes for a better boot, a better quality boot. The only pieces I don't skive are the linings, because I use about 1.5 ounces pigskin for linings. And I don't skive the tops if I use light tops, about 2-ounce tops. Mainly because when you sew around the top of them after they've been skived, it has a tendency to cut. You'll cut them with your sewing machine. But like this bolt hide, it's about 3.5 ounces thick, so I skive the vamp and I skive the counter cover, so it lays nicer. You don't have such a bulky seam. So we'll probably do that next here. I thought while we were in this particular part of the boot making, I'd show you how to lay out a...
Before you go on, I think you should show them where you do skive on the vamps.
Yeah.
What
okay.
it is.
You don't have to skive this area here. The only place that you're going to skive is the tongue pattern itself, right around here. And the same with the counter. You only skive this area here. The rest is going under the boot, and the side is going to go into your side seam. You don't need to. With the side seam, you want as strong a weight of leather as you can put in there.
On the you might show them on the tops where you do skive. Is it thicker?
Yeah. I'll take and I'll skive both scallops on the lining and the outside cover. I do skive the bottom of my tops. That we'll get to when we go to putting the vamps on the tops. That's when I skive them. After I've got them already assembled, that's when I skive the bottom of the top pattern. But like I said, on lightweight stuff I don't. But this is where you would normally skive, so when you lay your beading in, it would lay a little nicer. This is about 1.5 ounces leather, so I'm not going to. This is a pattern we've made up for you to give you some idea where to start placing your wrinkle stitches, your toe bugs. This is about a size 8 pattern. This is a size 8 pattern. And you would measure from the top of the tongue medallion down 4.5 inches, and that's where you would start your toe bug. You would also graduate out 1/3 of an inch per size that you use. You would move forward about 1/3 of an inch. I don't necessarily sell wrinkle stitches an awful lot, toe bugs an awful lot. I don't think it's a particularly good idea. I think it's become ornamentation more than useful purpose. People have just come to expect the fact that they've got to have wrinkles in their boot to make it look like a Western boot. I make many more boots without wrinkle stitches in them than I do with. You also will get calls for what's called a corded wrinkle stitch. That's where they've actually raised the area in between the sewed lines, and you back this area with a piece of leather, sew your wrinkle stitch in, and then take a long needle and pull thread through underneath your vamp. You will pull the thread through between the piece you've added on the bottom and the vamp itself. That'll raise the bumps that you want under there. And you can decorate it any way you want. I basically laid this out so you have a starting point. This is just that, a starting point. It's going to vary from last to last. It's going to vary from the size, the width. This just gives you a place to start balancing from. Once you've crimped your vamps and you have your last setting there, you can lay that vamp over it and get a pretty good idea where you want to put everything. So this gives you a starting point on it. Okay, I'll go over and skive these 4 pieces here that we want skived, and we'll get to crimping them. You have to adjust it.
Can you turn
for
the light off?
For the different thicknesses that you're using, you do have to adjust this machine. It doesn't adjust itself. With a bottom feed machine, this is your adjustment for elevation. The angle of skive is back where my finger is here. It isn't terribly time-consuming to do it. And I usually take a couple scraps of whatever weight leather I'm using and run through it first, just to make sure. It has a sharpening stone in it, and if you're working with very fine lightweight leather, you're going to want to sharpen it before you use it. There we go. pick that up?
Yeah.
And the same for the counter. Give you some idea where you want to skive. Now, I've done all 4 pieces in a relatively short amount of time. You would spend probably 5-10 minutes doing it with a hand knife. We're going to soak the vamps now, and we'll move on to crimping them. As I stated before, the crimping just is a sort of a pre-stressing process that takes part of the stretch out of your leather, makes it easier to assemble your boots when we get to putting the vamps on the tops. So I'll go soak these, and I'll soak the linings at the same time, and we'll go to that stage of it. We've got them soaked. Your linings and your vamp covers we've got soaked. So we're ready to start crimping. This is a crimping board. They come in many, many different shapes and sizes. We've just discovered that this particular angle works very, very well with these patterns. We crimp all ours by hand. They make a thing called a crimping screw, which is what this is. It's a sort of a U-shaped screw with serrated teeth inside and a threaded block on the outside. And it just turns up like so. You will take and have a crimping board like this, and the crimping screw would fit here, like this. The idea being that you would take and stretch your vamp over here, bring your 2 pieces of leather down to here. You have a hole in here to set your screw in, clamp this over the pieces of leather, and tighten it down. And then it'd give you that third hand again. They work, they're fine. There are people that have got accustomed to them, they use them all the time. I've got accustomed to doing it all by hand, so I don't have the notch cut in here for the crimping screw. The pattern that we'll be sending you has the notch marked on it if you want to. There's a place that we can get crimping screws made. They're about 80 bucks a set. Weren't they 80 or 85 bucks a set, something like that?
For 2.
Yeah. Try it by hand. It isn't that difficult. We'll start with the linings. You put the linings smooth side down. The side that's going to be next to their foot, you want the smoothest. And you more or less center it. I'll do part of it here with a tack hammer and tacks, and the other part with the stapler again. Most of the bigger factories don't do this anymore. They put them on, and we've tried this. You can put them on without crimping them. I don't know. We really haven't done it that much to form an opinion. This is the old tried and true method, and it does make putting the boot top together maybe a little bit easier.
The patterns we're sending you people that they will work without crimping them, but they're just harder to last. Quite a bit harder without crimping them.
It seems like this crimping does take some of the stretch out, and it does make the boot last a little easier. It makes it stand up straighter. Just seems to be easier to square up on the last because your toes are pointing out in that direction. As you can see, linings go together, crimp very easy. You can stretch them by hand. And the idea being to take all the wrinkles out and form it in basically the shape it's going to end up in. I put a couple tacks here. I'll tack here. I probably should have went through this for you to give you a 1, 2, 3. I'll do it on the next one. because it does make a difference in which direction you pull. You want to keep them centered. You don't want to pull it too much one way or another because you're going to end up with a twisted vamp, and then you've got to undo that twist when you last it. So I'll kind of count you through this one this time. Okay, vamps, I put one right on top of the other. Vamp lining, I mean. They're very, very easy to do, so you don't need the extra forgiveness. Okay, I line the top of the vamp up here and on the other side, and then just look down the back of it to see if you've got it lined up straight. Tack her in place. You can tack it right over the other one. Pull it fairly snug. Okay, from there, we'll go right out over the toe and just take some of the slack out. Don't pull it tight because you won't be able to crimp it the rest of the way then. Put a tack right in the toe. Okay, from there, I've got it tacked here, and I've got it tacked here. I take and I pull down here, just like this, and I just pull right to the corner, right where that crimping screw would be pulling if you had the crimping screw on it. Okay, then I come up and I take the other one, take all the slack and wrinkles out of it that you can, and do exactly the same thing, right down to the corner. After you've used your crimping boards a while, you'll have a nail pattern built in them, and you'll know automatically where to put nails. Now I come up here and I pull this straight and down a little bit. Also, these are just made out of pine. I have discovered that when I'm crimping by hand, a thicker, this is a 2-inch thick board, a thicker one works much better. You have a little more leverage this way. With a narrower board, you chew them up pretty bad because the lasting pliers go over the edge, and then they chew up the edge pretty bad. I do varnish them. It just makes the nap of the wood lay down a little bit, and once the wood gets wet, it has a tendency to stand up and get rough again, and you've got to sand it down again. But I have discovered that these thicker ones do work a little better if you're doing it by hand. Don't make them out of a hardwood. This is one I made out of hardwood, and the trouble being is once you drive nails in it, they're a bugger to get back out. Just a few tips that'll save you a little work. We cut them on the bias, cut them so that the grain is running across this way. So when you do start pulling down, you aren't going to be snapping them all the time. That's another thing with the thicker one, you don't have a tendency to break them. And when you get to pulling on some of this leather, there's a good chance that you'll break it. My last tack is right here. So I pull the toe area down, like this. Okay, there's your linings ready to go. And you want to put something in the top here so you can hang them up. Especially some of your finer leathers. You're not going to want this laying on the table somewhere because it'll stain readily when it's wet. So find yourself a place out of the way and hang them on the wall. We'll move to the vamp itself. This is a little more critical. Again, place it on the, well, maybe if I turn sideways, that'll help you a little bit, on the crimping board. This notch I was telling you about earlier in the pattern is going to be useful for you now. You're going to want to line the notch up with the center. Center your toe pattern itself, and I just bring her down like that. You want this line to go basically right over your middle instep, or where your middle instep would be. The same applies to the crimping board. You want this line to basically go right over your middle instep. You also should drop this corner down a little bit because you're going to be pulling this way, and you'll put a crink in it if you don't. So pull it down a little bit like that, and pull it fairly snug. Now I'll use my tool here. And come over on the other side. Do the same thing. Look down the back of it. Look this way. Line her up. All the care you take here is going to just make it that much easier to put this boot together. Now I come out, and I stretch the toe out. Make sure I've got my notch right on top of the board.
Might show them that how it looks sideways right now before you put the next
Okay.
tax in. Okay.
The medallion is centered, the tongue medallion. Now you take your lasting pliers, and the first pull is going to be right here. Just like this. See what happens? How'd that show up?
Good.
Okay? It is when you hang on to it. Turn her over and do the same thing. You're going to pull it a little bit off a kilter with that first one, so make sure you get her back organized again on the second one. This is another reason why I would suggest you start with a fairly heavy hide, because this is where you can do a lot of damage to them. The next pull is going to be right in the middle, right here. Like so. Watch your leather. You want to get all the wrinkles out that you can. You don't get them all out sometimes, but that'll come out when you do some lasting. But get all of them that you can out. Okay, now I'm going to go, I'll show you the difference in the sides here. You pick up on the wrinkles there?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Also notice that the tongue medallion is slipped a little bit here, so we're going to pull that back over this way. Okay, that's all it took right there. Now that's going to dry like that, and when we go to put the vamp on the tops, you're going to understand why. So we've got one more to do here. I bet by the time we're done with this course you'll appreciate a staple gun. They also make what's called a crimping clamp table, what have you. It's basically two boards that you've set about 2.5 inches apart. It's open in the middle and it's closed on the sides. You pad the area that you're going to be working on so that you can stick this board in, and there's a top shelf like this that holds so you can pull down on it. They're very handy.
Next time we're on the other side, we'll take a shot of his.
Yeah, I've got one over there. I thought I'd do this by hand for you so you'd see it can be done. First 6-8 months I was doing this, I wasn't convinced that anybody could do this by hand. Okay, again, line up the sides. Now we're going to go right out over the toe again. Next pull is going to be right here. And we go across, do the same thing. Make sure you got your tongue straight. That. Next one's going to be right here. And sometimes you may have to take several bites. You may have to work up and down on this depending on the type of leather. Kangaroo is terrible for that. You're going to have to, instead of stretching here and stretching here and stretching here, you may have to put 4 or 5 bites in this to get it all smooth. You may not get it all out. The idea being you want to get all of it that you can on it. It's just easier later because it's a wrinkle that has to come out one way or another. So that now is a good time to get it formed. I've discovered that a stapler, such as this one, does a lot less damage to your crimping boards than the tacks do. I don't know how many Vamps I've crimped on this, but there's been a bunch on it. And I'm still using the same ones that I started with when I started on this pattern. The ones I started before that I've just used nails on, I've already thrown away and made this set. They just seem to tear up your board a little more. Plus you have to work a little harder to get those lasting tacks out. Okay, we've got the Vamps crimped, we've got the linings crimped. Now we're going to move on to assembling the boot top itself. These have to dry overnight, about 12 hours. Sometimes a little longer. Depends on how heavy the leather. You make them wet, you soak them. These have been in the hot water now for about 15 minutes before we crimped them. An old bootmaker once told me that you leave leather in the water until it stops bubbling. Then that's when you're supposed to take it out. I've discovered that about 15 minutes in hot water is about all any of it needs. From here we'll move on to putting the boot tops together.